Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it has become vital for local authorities and businesses to adapt and plan their ongoing recovery due to the unknown impact to the economy. Hospitality industry accounts for 10% of the global GDP. For Wales, this creates a large percentage of the national income. In this presentation, we intend to follow the Principality Stadium supply chain to see how we can utilise the purchasing of alcohol for the stadium events from the local businesses to encourage growth in the local Cardiff economy. To do this, we will follow the 6 rights of supply chain to analyse the best options for purchasing.
First right we will cover is the right item, also known as specification. According to Bailey, there are 2 types of specification: performance specification and conformance specifications. A performance specification can be defined as a clear indication of the purpose, function, application and performance expected of the supplied material or service is communicated, and the supplier is allowed or encouraged to provide an appropriate product. Bailey et al. 2015, page 170. A conformance specification can be defined as specifications where the buying organisation lays down clear and unambiguous requirements that must be met. Bailey et al. 2015, page 170. Conformance specifications are about the product and not what the product can be used for or its application. In this moment, we must analyse what the ask is. For this, we must focus in on the specific product we are looking to procure. There is the wider product line of beverages to be supplied during events at the stadium. However, we must then go into detail. From beverages, there is alcoholic and non-alcoholic. If we are to focus on alcoholic, then there are spirits, wines, beers and ciders. For the examples, we can focus on beers. As purchasers, it is important that the product required is considered when writing the specification. So that the specification can fit the demands of the internal users, it is vital that they are included in a cross-functional team to ensure that the specification written highlights the needs of the user properly. In this case, we would suggest that this party be the head of hospitality and other senior hospitality managers. It should also involve the purchasing team and possibly customer service to allow any previous feedback to be included, so that the specification can reflect the end user's previous issues and preference. A cross-functional team can ensure a well-written and clear specification, which is required. Having a tight specification, that is, one that clearly and completely defines the organisation's intended purchase, helps prevent problems later on. Solish and Semenik, 2012, page 27. The need for a clear specification is so that all expectations are met. License suggests that the procurement processes can fail due to many actions or lack of actions, which can include an ill-explained process. License in Farmington, 2020, page 147. The process starts with the specification and need, and so we must ensure that the specification highlights all the needs of the organisation whilst procuring the beers required for the events held at the Principality Stadium. My colleagues will develop the requirements further as we go through the presentation. However, if the requirements are not clearly explained in the specification stage, this can result in the procurement process not satisfying the need of the internal and external users.
With Bailey, he's first stated that unless specifications can be understood and consistently met, a potential supplier is unlikely to win business from a buying organisation, taking a professional view of the need to do business only with vendors who are tuned into and able to respond to the particular needs of the customers. Bailey et al. 2015. So this suggests that with a poor specification, it is quite unlikely for a business to select you for their quality purposes. So poor quality can lead to things like waiting for a replacement product, downtime for our business, adjustments and reworks in our strategies, and customer dissatisfaction. In order for us to fulfill good quality from our supplier, we must consider the supplier's quality as well as their capability. In order for this to be done, we must consider third party and awarded by TQM small medium enterprises that are local to Cardiff, and assess them using weighting systems and their ability to ensure quality and capability. So how can we assure and assess the quality of capability of these companies? Quality in organisations can be assessed by their attitude, the systems they use, their references and reference samples. The capability can also be assessed by the specifications given from these companies, their plant, the discipline and training they offer to their staff, the conditions of their company, and their SPC, which is their statistical process control, which is factual information that's given about the product as being alcohol. Additional considerations when looking at quality would be awards like the ISO 9000. This is a standardization and certificate for companies to help ensure that they meet customer and other stakeholder needs within statutory and regulatory requirements related to the product or service. Additionally, ISO 14000 is another certificate that will be given out to companies to help organisations minimise how their operations negatively affect the environment, comply with applicable laws, regulations and other environmentally orientated requirements. Another thing to consider when looking at quality is the actual alcohol itself. With the alcohol closing at half time, it means that we will not be looking to hold beers for long periods. Therefore, we should consider accepting potentially cheaper and earlier due by dates on our purchased alcohol. Lower percentage alcohol draft beer will also be phased into bars and concourses, with Heineken bringing in 4.1% ABV Amstel beer to eventually replace the stronger Heineken products in the Principality Stadium. Therefore, we should consider this potentially while looking into our high quality and low quality draft alcohols. Overall, we believe in order to receive good quality in beverages for the Millennium Stadium, we should follow the factors mentioned above while assessing the quality and capability. We should also look out for company certifications and awards to ensure they are legal and reliable businesses to work with. Finally, we should also use an overall weighting system. This will allow for us to ensure that the quality of our product will be fit for purpose, boost the Cardiff economy and satisfy our customers.
Then we'll be looking at right quantity. So as described by Bailey, the understanding of quantity is important as holding inventory materials held by businesses for selling into the market to make profit costs money. Therefore, it is necessary to calculate what quantities of stock are needed and when to meet requirements for stock or for production. This is important when applying to purchasing the alcohol, as we must relate to capacity and past purchasing to analyse how much we would need in stock to complete an event at the stadium. Due to demand changing, especially with the recent reduction in selling of alcohol during matches at the stadium, it is important to predict the stock levels required and the perishability of this stock, as this will affect the quantity required in the stores. The main objectives for holding stock are for the convenience of the business, but most importantly, it's to match the supply and demand pattern. So here we've got a graph showing the economic order quantity. So looking at EOQ, it's the ideal quantity at which inventory, carrying costs and ordering costs are both at their lowest. So buyers use it to optimize lot sizes and reordering costs. However, we wouldn't really be using this graph because it's basically about lead time is constant and certain. So there's no limit on order size. So obviously then we wouldn't use it because the demand fluctuates too often to calculate repeatable data, so it wouldn't be reliable.
Next, we'll look at the right time. The right time can change depending on many factors: when the product needs to arrive, the size of the inventory, and the agreed lead time. When you purchase small quantity, you have to purchase more frequently, and when purchasing larger quantity, you can save time by purchasing less frequently. For us, we need to purchase large quantity as well as purchasing frequently on selected dates when events are happening. This is to ensure all of our consumers have availability to alcoholic drinks when we hold events at the Principality. Time is a competitive advantage, and I believe we need to understand its importance when dealing with suppliers. Time is seen as a cost for us, and it needs to be minimised as much as possible. This is done by having a supplier with good responsiveness and one that can agree to a suitable lead time and also deliver as agreed, avoiding the need for expediting. Liquidated damages. Liquidated damages occur if a supplier fails to deliver on time. The supplier becomes liable to the business that are purchasing and have to pay a sum to compensate for any loss suffered, called damages. Bailey proposes it is implied by law that the supplier will be held liable for damages in circumstances the purchaser and contractor, foreseeing the possibility of a breach, may attempt to assess in advance the damages payable in the contract. Bailey et al. 2015, page 247. This is something we need to be aware of in case it occurs. Liquidated damages will allow us to get compensation, and as we are the purchasing business, this can be a great help to us. Perishability. Products like beer and cider have a long shelf life and aren't perishable, which means we can order the stock before the day of the event without it spoiling like some food products may. However, the longer it's held, the worse quality it becomes. This is why the leftover stock from the event wouldn't be sold at the next event unless it's within a short period of time, as the quality would have decreased, meaning we would have to restock per event, bringing in fresh product. By ordering before the time of the event, it will give plenty of time for the stock to arrive without holding it for too long and taking up inventory space. Furthermore, demand is variable and we may have events occurring regularly, meaning we require stock on short notice. It may be better to have stock saved and available for this time. These are just some advantages to ordering stock prior to the event date and ensuring we understand the perishability of the stock and how it should be taken care of. Just in time. The just-in-time philosophy reduces waste. This is accomplished by purchasing stock from suppliers when a consumer orders rather than before. The stock will be purchased from the supplier when ordered so that stock will not be held. This therefore would help a business with a reduced inventory as well as improve stock turnover. However, this would not work for us. We need stock to be held and delivered pre-event as consumers want their drinks on order. We require high stocks, so when it's ordered, we can give out stock straight away rather than ordering stock when a consumer orders. Supplier's distance. Taking note of the supplier's distance is also vital to having a successful delivery time. Buyers can be blamed if suppliers fail to deliver on time. By focusing on local suppliers, we will reduce the risk of distribution time being too long, ensuring product is delivered with minimal issues. If we were to use suppliers from a further away distance, it may affect us on our order time and how long the lead time will be. On-time delivery. It's important to ensure on-time delivery. If stock arrives late, many negative scenarios could occur. Bailey suggests the achievement of delivery on time is a standard procurement objective. If goods and materials arrive late or work is not completed at the right time, sales may be lost, production halted, and damage clauses may be invoked. Bailey et al. 2015, page 238. For us, I think it's important to ensure deliveries at the right time. This is key. The key to this is for us to understand what lead times apply. Lead time. Buyers have a role to ensure there's agreements on lead time so that it can be ensured the stock reaches us on the delivery date before the event. Careful planning of lead time is substantially significant to the success of an organisation. Good lead times will satisfy businesses. The shorter the lead time, the better, and this can be a very good unique selling point for many suppliers and something I believe we should highlight. An article from Markin 91, who are an ISO 9001 2015 certified company, says that lead time is the latency between the initiation of a process and the final production of the product. Lead time plays an important role in the success of a business. Hitesh Basin 2020. In this case, this would be the order date and the delivery date. Ensuring that the lead times are known and accepted are very important, and we need to ensure the lead times are followed by the suppliers. Force majeure. Force majeure looks deeper into both buyers and sellers. Bailey suggests if either party is prevented from carrying out contract obligations by circumstances beyond their reasonable control, including government intervention, strikes, and lockouts, but not including weather conditions, then the party affected should not be liable for any delay resulting from such circumstances for as long as they last. Bailey et al. 2015, page 248. With the recent pandemic, it's important that we take this into consideration and ensure that we deal with the suppliers who have strong financial security and clear communication. In case COVID-19 affects either us or the suppliers, then a force majeure clause could be triggered. Expediting. Expediting means chasing and urging people. Expediting, according to Bailey, is in order to achieve procurement's responsibility of delivery on time. Expediting is frequently undertaken. Bailey et al. 2008, page 193. This is seen as a hands-on approach, and buyers would like to reduce the use of expediting. However, expediting will always remain within the supply chain. Ways to avoid expediting, according to Bailey, were ensuring the lead times are known and accepted, mutual concerns exist between supplier and buyer, capacity and capability of suppliers is checked pre-contract, specifications are not frequently altered, specs are clear and understood by supplier and fall within the supplier's technical capability. Bailey et al. 2015, page 245 to 246.
So the principality needs to look at place. It's important for the principality to understand the location of their supplies will have a significant effect on delivery quality and even the economy. The Principality need to establish with the chosen suppliers a secure transport management system. This is a tracking system so all parties involved have the knowledge of where the products are at all times. The Principality have a good relationship with a local supplier called Brains. The beer company were the longest lasting partner with the Principality, but that contract ended. They could reconsider this option and create a new contract to invest more money into Wales. Brains have a brewery situated in Wales called the Dragon Brewery, a state-of-the-art facility that costs £20 million. Brains' continuing commitment to the brewing in the heart of the national capital. This will allow the Principality to have the beverages being delivered efficiently, also lowering delivery costs. Another supplier which Principality works with is Heineken. This is due to the measures put in place at the stadium to emphasise responsible drinking. Heineken have 6 breweries based in the United Kingdom, based all around Britain. Market engagement. To gain the contract as suppliers, we will have to provide adequate tenders or quotation. A quotation is a formal statement setting out the estimated cost for a particular job or service. A tender looks at larger specifications, higher values, but it also provides a potential buyer with larger amounts of information that the quotation will not provide. This would be the advised choice for the Principality when looking at suppliers. Invitations to a tender are common practice in the public and private sector. Whether the invitation to tender is an offer of purchase or an invitation to negotiate will depend on the facts and circumstances of the case. Next slide, please. So it is vital for the Principality to choose the correct sourcing strategy of a supplier. There are different types of sourcing, which are single, dual, and multiple. Single sourcing is an arrangement where the organisation selects a single supplier to provide the entirety of a given supply. Dual, an organisation consolidates its spend to 2 suppliers, and then multiple, you have using multiple supply sources for the same product or service. Sourcing seeks to evaluate and engage suppliers to achieve cost savings and best value for goods and services, which can be done through a tender process. Here are some advantages and disadvantages to all the sourcings. So single sourcing, you will be likely to build a good relationship with the supplier and less breakdowns in the communications. However, there may be increased vulnerability of supply, and you may become too dependent on one supplier. Advantages and disadvantages to dual source supplying. You may become dependent on one supplier, or there's greater flexibility and robustness of the supply chain. However, this requires negotiations with 2 suppliers, which may be time consuming. Another disadvantage to this is there may be discrepancies between the 2 suppliers in what they produce in their products. And finally, advantages to multiple sourcing. So there's less reliance on any one supplier, and competition could provide incentives for suppliers. However, on the other hand, lower ordering volumes, reduced bargaining power, and the ability to save through economies of scale. Another disadvantage to multiple sourcing, there may be breakdowns in communications due to the number of suppliers. It would be advised for the Principality look at dual sourcing or multiple sourcing, and this is what I provided in this presentation, also showing you 2 large suppliers which could work well with the Principality.
Moving on to the right price. According to Lysons and Farrington, price may be defined as the value of a commodity or service measured in terms of the standard monetary unit. Furthermore, according to SIPS, the right price refers not only to the initial price paid, but to the cost of acquisition, whole life costs, and the opportunity cost, meaning other alternatives are lost at the expense of the chosen one. In addition to this, the right price means securing the right item, the right quality, right quantity, right time, and right place at a price that is reasonable, fair, competitive, and affordable. ideally minimising procurement costs in order to maximise profits by price analysis, supplier cost analysis, and competitive pricing and negotiations. When selecting alcohol suppliers, there are a number of factors to consider, including hidden charges, for example, freight, packaging, levy costs, and waste impact, i.e. the environmental impact. Perhaps some alcohol suppliers offer returnable packaging, which would have a positive impact on the environment, or if not, we could end up having to pay additional costs for disposal of the packaging. Not only would this be a financial cost to us and subsequently the Principality Stadium, but would also have environmental costs from the pollution caused. According to Bailey et al., these hidden costs are often referred to as a price cost iceberg. Here you can see an image of a price cost iceberg. As you can see from the image, the price that you as the Principality Stadium would pay, the tip of the iceberg, is the only thing that you can see or may be aware of. However, without looking at the costs underneath the surface, the hidden costs as discussed above, then it's likely that the price could be wrong and more than likely you are being overcharged. Instead, it's better to use cost-based pricing, which allows buyers to insist that prices are justified by cost evidence. Other factors to think about when considering alcohol suppliers, for example, specifically with wine, I would consider the unit of measure, the price per bottle, the price per quantity, and then also finding out if there are price breaks whereby discounts can be offered. For example, if I'm buying 100 bottles of wine, I could get a discount of 20% and then only have to pay for 80 bottles instead. Therefore, an initial price estimation based on price per bottle would be inaccurate. After searching the market, the average cost of a 4-pack of Heineken beer is £5.25 for 440ml cans. One can is approximately 3/4 of a pint, multiplied by 4 is approximately 3 pints per pack, which is roughly the average amount consumed per hour during a rugby match, according to Extra Sport. The duration of the match is 80 minutes plus half-time and pre-match time. The likelihood is that you'd be there 2 hours, working out at 8 cans per person per match. However, in light of the recent changes to close the 34 bars at half-time, the hope is that people will be consuming less alcohol, possibly bringing the drinking time to about an hour. However, it's unclear as to whether people may consume more during this time instead of pacing themselves. This causes uncertainty about the quantity needed and therefore the total price. Furthermore, it's also believed that about 81% of stadium fans drink during a match. Therefore, on this basis, 81% of 74,500 seats in the stadium is 60,345 people drinking a pack of 440ml beers every match. As you can see on the right-hand side, I've put a cost breakdown, so I'll just explain that. So £5.25 is the cost per pack, multiplied by the number of fans drinking, which is 60,345, gives us a total of £316,811.25 per match on alcohol. Then to calculate the total cost per year, it'll be the price per match, which is £316,811.25, multiplied by an average of 9 events per year, gives us a total of £2,851,299 per year. To then find out our total cost over the 4 years, we'd multiply this figure by 4, which gives us a total of £11,405,196. At this point, it's important to note that different suppliers may have different packaging, such as they may use bottles instead of cans and therefore have different measurements. The packs can also contain different quantities. For example, some have 4, 6, 12, etc. These things can also make it difficult to choose the right price, as it's not necessarily a fair playing field. The cost of ingredients, for example barley, has fluctuated greatly over the last couple of years. When price of ingredients increases, so will the price of the product, being beer. And in the same way, if it decreases, so will the price of beer. This should be monitored, as it may be possible for suppliers to increase or decrease as and when they see appropriate. Another aspect of the cost would be holding or storage costs. for the alcohol on a match-by-match basis. It's also important to know that we can't keep the alcohol on our premises, as the total cost to you would increase due to the cost of insurance and liability, as the value of the alcohol in storage is very high. The perishability of the items would also cause the price to increase due to higher insurance costs. Now that we have a bigger and broader picture of the costs involved, for example, labour costs, delivery and others mentioned previously, now we can put together a tender to outline exactly what we need from suppliers. We may use multiple suppliers as the cost of alcohol will be very high. This is called duopoly or monopsony. By completing a tender for the supply of alcohol, we have created a competitive market. This will encourage best costs from suppliers and so will benefit us to find the right item at the right cost to the company. When writing the tenders and sending them to potential suppliers, I would need to make sure that it's fair, honest, and that each supplier is getting exactly the same information. This helps us to select the right supplier at the right price. This also doesn't necessarily mean that the cheapest supplier or suppliers are the best, because we also have to check due diligence and ensure that these suppliers are up to standard and in line with the SIP's code of conduct, as we wouldn't want the Principality Stadium to be associated with unethical companies, just as we wouldn't ourselves. We also should make sure that these alcohol suppliers are fit for purpose. Again, they may seem like the best or right price, but if it doesn't meet your needs, then we should not select them as a supplier. Outlined in the tender would be the variation of alcohol needed, including beers, spirits, ciders and wines, the quantity needed per event, the quantity needed per year, for 4 years, i.e. the number of events per year being 9, the duration of the contract, which is 4 years, and it will also include the additional costs of alcohol taxes and levies, as well as delivery costs, labour and holding costs. Once we have all the offers back from the alcohol suppliers, we can then begin negotiations and come to an agreement with them for the right price. When negotiating, we will have a certain amount of leverage because there is such a high demand for beer and other alcoholic beverages. This drives down price as we could go to any number of suppliers to get what we need. This creates competition as suppliers will be fighting for our business. The other leverage we have is that because we want such a high volume of alcohol and therefore have such a high value order, suppliers will be more likely to want our business, again increasing competition and driving down price. Furthermore, because we would be giving suppliers ongoing business, as we stated in our tender that our contract is for 4 years, we would be more desirable for suppliers to do business with, again increasing competition. Also, when negotiating, we don't want to rip anyone off because we need to make sure they will be able to support us through the duration of our contract. We also want to keep them in business and hopefully develop and maintain a good relationship with them. This is called fair ground. Once we have negotiated final offers with the suppliers, we will then carefully select our supplier at the right price that we believe to be reasonable, fair, competitive and affordable for all involved. If the right price is not achieved, suppliers will be free to charge what they like without check. Supplier profit margins will be squeezed unfairly, leading to insecurity of supply. Materials and supply costs will rise. Profits will fall, and all prices charged to customers will have to rise, causing a loss in sales, and there will be less profit to motivate shareholders and reinvest in the business. This is taken from the SIPS textbook from 2012. Thank you for listening.